There are moments in life when things just stall. Not dramatically, not in a loud collapse, but quietly. Money slips through your hands faster than you earn it. Your home begins to feel less like a refuge, more like a weight. You try harder, think smarter, stay positive, and still something feels misaligned. Not broken, just off. As if something unseen has quietly taken up residence in your life, redirecting your fortune, blurring your clarity, slowing your momentum. And most people never trace it back to the objects they welcomed into their space. Today isn't about superstition. It's not about fear. It's about energy and how the things we carry, keep, or pick up out of habit or curiosity may be shaping our entire path forward without us realizing it. Some items carry more than weight. They carry stories, memories, unresolved emotions, some of which were never meant to be part of your journey. The wrong object, placed at the heart of your home, can act like an invisible anchor, dragging down everything you were trying to rise into. This isn't a list for minimalists or a call to throw everything out. It's an invitation to look around with sharper eyes and a softer heart, to see your home not as storage, but as a sacred vessel for your energy, your peace, your future. We're not here to beg for your subscription. We're not asking you to like or share this video just yet. In truth, we don't need fast numbers. What we truly hope for is that in the few moments you spend here, you receive something of real value. Not just tips, not just knowledge, but a feeling of clarity, a breath of calm, a deeper alignment with your life. As someone who has spent years guiding others through the wisdom of Feng Shui and mindful living, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm here to offer a space of grounded guidance, a mirror to help you see yourself more clearly. And if these words help you feel even just a little more in tune with yourself or your surroundings, then we've done what we came here to do. If one day you feel called to return, to journey deeper with us, know that the door is always open and we'll be right here waiting. Because today, we're not just listing 7 things you should avoid picking up. We're exploring why they matter, how they shape your energy, and what it means to reclaim your space as a source of strength rather than silent sabotage. If you've ever felt blocked without explanation, financially, emotionally, even spiritually, stay with me. This might be the key you didn't know you were missing. Mistake number 1, objects found on the street, especially strange or unusual ones. Not everything that finds its way to the street is meant to be found, and not everything that catches your eye is meant to be welcomed. But how often do we pause long enough to ask that? There's something about small, curious objects left behind. Maybe it's a little red string tied just right, or a coin glinting in the sun, or a fabric pouch with patterns that feel like they were calling to you. It's tempting, almost playful, but the moment your hand reaches out, there's a quiet agreement being made, an unspoken transaction. And too often we make that choice based on appearance, not awareness. Here's the truth that's easy to overlook. The street is not just a place where people lose things. It's also a place where people release what they no longer want to carry. And that difference changes everything. Some items are dropped by accident, yes, but others are placed intentionally, with purpose, with ritual, with the silent hope that someone else will take on the burden they can't bear any longer. And the person who picks it up often has no idea what they've just accepted into their life. Have you ever had a season in life where things suddenly felt heavy for no reason? Where sleep became restless, conversations turned tense, and nothing seemed to flow the way it used to? Could it be that something you thought was harmless was quietly shifting the balance of your space? That question isn't meant to scare, it's meant to awaken. Because in Feng Shui and in the world of energetic design, everything carries a frequency. And when you take something into your home, you're not just bringing in its physical form. You're also inviting in the history, the energy, and sometimes even the unresolved emotions it has absorbed. The most dangerous energy isn't the one that screams. It's the one that whispers. And the things we pick up without questioning, those are often the whispers we never learn to hear until they have already settled in. I once met a woman who lived in Los Angeles. She told me about a little fabric pouch she found near her apartment, tied with red string and adorned with tiny symbols. It was beautiful in a mysterious way, like a secret meant just for her. She brought it home and placed it on a shelf near her bedroom window. Within weeks, she noticed strange patterns, restless sleep, unexplained arguments, a constant tension that hadn't been there before. She cleaned her apartment, changed her routines, even rearranged her space, but nothing worked. It wasn't until she removed that small pouch and burned it in a quiet backyard ceremony that things began to shift. Peace returned slowly like light after fog. Does that mean every object on the ground is cursed? Of course not. But when something isn't yours and it doesn't clearly belong to someone else, you must ask yourself, why is it here? Why now? And why do I feel pulled toward it? Sometimes the pull is curiosity. Sometimes, strangely, it's resonance, because your own energy is vulnerable or seeking something. But that seeking can be dangerous if it isn't paired with discernment. There's an old architectural principle I often return to, and it applies just as well to energy. Not every doorway should be walked through. Not every entry leads to a safe structure. Your home is a structure of the self. It reflects your choices, your mindset, your energy field. Bringing in an object from the street, especially the one that feels odd, out of place, or strangely captivating, is like opening a door without checking what's behind it. And once it's in, it doesn't just sit quietly. It merges, it settles, and it starts to speak in the language of flow, tension, resistance, or misalignment. So here's the deeper question. Are you choosing what enters your space, or are you being chosen by it? That's the twist. Many people think they're making decisions from free will, when in fact their energy has already been influenced. They pick something up because it called to them, but not all callings are invitations. Some are warnings. And the more we romanticize mystery without grounding, the easier it becomes to mistake danger for destiny. You don't need to be afraid, but you do need to be intentional. Because while some found objects are innocent, others are energetic vessels left behind by those who no longer wanted to carry what they contain. Red strings often used in spiritual rituals, dolls used to seal intentions, coins used in karmic offerings, pouches tied with meaning and scent. None of these are just decorations. They are messages. And unless you know what language they were written in, you have no way of knowing what promise you've made by taking them home. There's a quiet kind of discipline in learning to walk away from things that are intriguing but unclear. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. A mature home is not just designed beautifully, it's curated with care. Just like you wouldn't build a foundation on unstable ground, you shouldn't build an energetic foundation around objects whose origin is unknown or energy is untested. And here's something to consider. Perhaps the real power is not in what you pick up, but in what you're able to leave behind. That restraint, that discernment, is a form of self-protection no one can teach you from a textbook. It's something you build over time, moment by moment, through mindful living. Not everything that shines belongs in your hands. Not everything that feels like a sign is one. And sometimes the most powerful choice is to notice and move on. Because in the end, your space should speak one language, peace, not confusion, not tension, not residue from someone else's past. And in a world that constantly invites you to collect more things, more meaning, more noise, there is something profoundly grounding about choosing less, but choosing wisely. Mistake 2, items from people going through misfortune or failure. If you walked into someone's home and saw sadness woven into the couch, pain stitched into the mattress, and disappointment hanging from the wall in a picture frame, would you still want to take those things home with you? Most people would say no, but when those emotions are invisible, when they're softened by wood grain or hidden behind upholstery, we let our logic go quiet and convince ourselves we're just being resourceful. A great deal, a quality piece, a friend who didn't need it anymore. But what if what they no longer needed wasn't just the item, but the energy it carried? Here's the truth that rarely gets discussed. Objects don't just carry function, they carry frequency. And when something has lived inside a storm, it doesn't leave that storm behind the moment it's handed to you. It brings some of it with it. That storm might look like a messy divorce, a house lost in foreclosure, a bedroom that held years of anxiety, or a table where arguments slowly replaced connection. And when those objects find new homes, they carry those echoes with them, unless they're deliberately cleared. Think about the spaces where emotions gather most. Beds hold the weight of restlessness. Sofas witness the unraveling of trust. Dining tables become battlegrounds for unspoken resentment. These are not neutral zones. These are emotional receivers. And they don't always stop broadcasting just because they've changed location. You sit in a chair from someone who's lost everything, and suddenly your motivation disappears. You sleep on a mattress from a broken relationship, and your own partnerships begin to fray. Is it superstition, or is it simply unacknowledged energy? Let's flip the question for a moment. If someone gifted you a used phone with malware on it, would you use it just because it looks clean? Or would you wipe the system first, maybe even hesitate to accept it at all? And yet, when it comes to something far more intimate, something that lives in your physical space, day after day, we rarely ask what it's been exposed to. We rarely ask what's running in the background. There's a danger in assuming objects are just things, because once they have absorbed energy, especially emotional energy, they become silent carriers of it, not in a theatrical, haunted kind of way, but in a quiet, frictional kind of way. The way your thoughts get heavier in a room that should feel light. The way conversations turn defensive in a house that was supposed to be a fresh start. The way your plans start slipping off track even when you're doing everything right. Many people are proud of finding beautiful secondhand furniture. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that until you forget to ask what story that piece of furniture already lived through. I've worked with clients who built their dream home with used pieces from estate sales, family hand-me-downs, or resale platforms. And while everything looked perfect from the outside, their personal lives began to feel disjointed. Health issues that came out of nowhere. Financial opportunities slipping without explanation. A persistent feeling of heaviness. We traced it back to specific items, and in nearly every case, once those pieces were removed or cleansed, the flow returned. So here's a question that requires a pause, not just an answer. When you take something from someone who's been through deep pain, are you receiving a gift or absorbing a residue? That's the energetic line we don't often see, because we've been taught to value savings more than space, efficiency over energy. But your home is not just a container for stuff. It's a breathing environment, and everything inside it either supports your flow or subtly interrupts it. Even family heirlooms, cherished as they may be, are not exempt from this rule. A dining table passed down through generations may carry pride, yes, but it may also carry decades of suppressed grief, regret, or unspoken obligation. The question isn't about beauty or history, it's about energetic compatibility. Does this item still serve you in this stage of your life? Or is it asking you to carry someone else's past when you haven't even fully claimed your own future? Some might argue, but energy isn't visible. Isn't this just imagination? And to that, I say this: Mold isn't visible at first either. Neither is carbon monoxide. Neither are microfractures in a structure's foundation. But we treat all of those with respect. So why wouldn't we apply the same care to the energetic blueprint of our homes? The most dangerous blockages are not the ones we see. They're the ones we feel and ignore. The tension that builds without source. The fatigue that doesn't match your schedule. The emotional friction that arrives in a home you hoped would bring peace. These are all symptoms, not causes. And if you have already accepted an item from someone going through hardship, this isn't a moment to panic. It's a moment to awaken. Because just as energy can transfer, it can also be released. There are rituals, simple, grounded ones, that help reset the field. Cleanse with salt water, wipe the surface with ginger-infused cloth, light purifying herbs. Place the object in sunlight. But most importantly, hold the clear intention that you are releasing what does not belong to you, that you are honoring its past, but you are no longer letting it shape your present. The real lesson here isn't to fear what others have used. It's to respect what they have experienced, to understand that pain doesn't vanish just because it's no longer visible. That energy is not erased. It is either transmuted, transferred, or trapped. And your job, as the steward of your home's energy, is to choose which of those paths you allow. There's no shame in using what's been loved before, but love alone is not enough to purify. Awareness is, and perhaps more than anything, that's what this moment is inviting you to do. Not to react, but to reflect. To ask yourself not just, what have I brought into my home, but what has it brought into me? Because sometimes the things we carry forward are not ours. And sometimes the most powerful transformation begins not with a purchase, but with a release. Mistake 3, items you do not use or simply do not like. There's a quiet kind of weight that builds in our homes, not from what we see, but from what we've stopped seeing. That drawer full of things you haven't touched in months. The shirt hanging in the closet that no longer fits your life or your spirit. The framed picture from a past you've already outgrown but haven't dared to admit. They don't shout for your attention. They just sit there unused, unloved, unnoticed, and yet they take up the same space, the same energy as the things that truly matter. If something no longer serves who you are becoming, what is it still doing in the space where you are meant to grow? The truth is, every object you keep sends a subtle message. It tells your home what matters to you. It tells your energy what to hold on to. And over time, it tells your future whether or not there is room for it to arrive. You may think that an unused item is harmless, that it's just sitting there waiting, doing nothing. But in Feng Shui, nothing in your home is ever truly still. Everything radiates frequency, memory, emotion. An item you dislike, a gift you only kept out of guilt, a piece of decor that makes you cringe a little each time you see it. These are not passive. They are energetic interruptions. They speak to your space every day, even if you've stopped listening. When you walk past something that doesn't feel right, your nervous system registers it. Even if your mouth never says a word, the effect is small but cumulative. A twinge of stress here, a drop in motivation there. Eventually, you stop feeling fully at home in your own home, and you can't quite explain why. Many people associate clutter with mess, but true energetic clutter is far more subtle. It's not about what's out of place. It's about what's out of alignment. A perfectly clean room can still be filled with stagnant energy if it's filled with things that reflect who you no longer are. That purse from a job you hated. That book from a phase you've moved beyond. That painting your friend gave you, but you've never truly liked. These aren't just things. They are echoes, ghosts of versions of you that no longer exist. And as long as they remain, they block the signal to the life that's trying to find you now. It's not about minimalism or aesthetic. It's about congruence, about walking into a room and feeling a gentle inner yes, not a silent compromise. You don't need to live in an empty house to feel peace, but you do need to live in a home that supports your energy rather than distorting it. Sometimes the most powerful transformation you can create isn't buying something new. It's letting go of something old with clarity. We often keep things because we think we might need them one day, or because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or because we've simply gotten used to them being there. But ask yourself this: has keeping that object added anything to your life? Or has it simply delayed the life you could have had without it? Feng Shui isn't about aesthetics, it's about alignment. And alignment begins with honesty. Honesty about how something makes you feel. Honesty about why it's still there. Honesty about whether you're living surrounded by things that truly reflect your values, or just your habits. You don't have to justify what you let go of. You only have to honor what you want to let in. And often the energy you're seeking, clarity, inspiration, abundance, is already knocking. It's just that there's no room at the door. So the next time you walk through your home, don't ask, do I need this? Ask, do I like who I become around this? Because everything you own is either helping you rise or holding you back. And the more silent its presence, the deeper its impact. Your space isn't just a reflection of your life, it's the soil from which your next chapter will grow. So what are you planting? Clarity or confusion? Calm or obligation? Expansion or nostalgia? You can't move into the future if you're still furnishing your home with the past. And you can't fully thrive if parts of your space are quietly reminding you that you've settled. Let this be the moment you walk through your home with fresh eyes, not to clean, but to reclaim, not to judge, but to choose. Because when you choose what stays, you also choose what comes next. And sometimes the only thing standing between you and your next breakthrough is the courage to release what you've outgrown. If it drains you, why let it stay? Mistake 4. Items that were once broken and then repaired. There's a quiet agreement we make when we keep something that once broke. We agree to live with its fracture. Maybe it's a mug we loved too much to toss, so we glued it back together. Maybe it's a statue that cracked during a movie, and we couldn't bring ourselves to let it go. Or maybe it's a picture frame with a splintered corner, still hanging on the wall as if nothing ever happened. The object still functions, so we convince ourselves it's fine. But in Feng Shui, the surface story is never the whole truth. The moment an object breaks, it records an energetic imprint, a disruption in flow, a moment of instability, a breach in its vibrational integrity. And when we repair it without acknowledging that energy, we don't erase the break, we simply decorate it. If something cracked once, what energy are you really holding together? That's the question we rarely ask, and yet the answer echoes all around us, often in ways we don't expect. Things in life start to feel off-center, not disastrous, just slightly misaligned. Projects stall halfway. Relationships feel serviceable, but not fulfilling. The home feels lived in, but not alive. You can't quite name the discomfort, but you know it's there, like walking on uneven ground while pretending it's flat. And maybe the discomfort isn't just circumstantial. Maybe it's energetic, because every broken but still here item in your space is subtly reinforcing the idea that almost okay is good enough. And over time, that idea starts to shape how you show up in your own life. There's a principle in both structural engineering and energy alignment. A break, once ignored, becomes a weak point. In buildings, it invites moisture, mold, decay. In objects, it invites energetic drag. The repair may be solid, but the harmony is no longer seamless. And if your environment holds on to items that have been fractured, is it any wonder your own sense of peace feels slightly fractured too? You wouldn't knowingly build a foundation on damaged concrete, even if someone patched it. So why would you build your energetic sanctuary around items whose wholeness is only visual? There's also something deeper happening here, something we don't like to talk about. When we keep repaired objects out of sentimentality or stubbornness, we're not just avoiding waste. Sometimes we're avoiding grief. Grief over the fact that something we love didn't stay whole. Grief over the fact that letting go feels like failure. So we glue it, we tape it, we prop it back up, and we call it resourcefulness. But often what we're really doing is preserving the evidence of what we couldn't fully accept. The object becomes a quiet symbol of our fear of loss, and that fear begins to shape the energy of our home. Now pause here. Think about how many things in your space fall into this category. That chipped bowl you keep meaning to replace. That table leg you tightened with a bracket. That figurine whose arm was reattached with care. None of these are wrong to keep, but all of them are worth noticing. Are you keeping it because it adds life to your space, or because it's too hard to face what its loss might mean? And more importantly, what else are you doing the same with? Which relationships, routines, beliefs have already cracked, but are still held together by habit? This isn't just about a broken item. It's about the way you relate to brokenness itself. In Feng Shui, broken objects are considered to carry unstable qi, not because they're dangerous, but because they vibrate with the memory of separation. Even if you can't see the crack anymore, your energy can feel it. It's like the house remembering the sound of the break long after the silence has returned. And what does that do, day after day, to your own inner stability? Living among broken things, however beautifully repaired, is like sleeping on a mattress that has just enough sag to disrupt your rest, but not enough to justify replacing it. You adapt, but you don't thrive. Some may argue that mended things have beauty. That imperfection carries its own kind of soul. And that's true, if the item has been healed intentionally. In Japanese culture, kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, celebrates the break as part of the story. But the difference is this: the repair is honored, not hidden. The energy is transformed, not ignored. That takes presence, ceremony, choice. But most of what we keep isn't repaired with reverence. It's patched with avoidance. And avoidance has a very different frequency. It doesn't shine, it lingers. So here's a gentle but essential question to carry with you the next time your eyes land on something that has been broken and pieced back together. Is this item contributing to the stability of my life? Or is it quietly reminding me of everything I'm still trying to hold together? There is no shame in repairing, but there must be awareness in the keeping. Because what you allow into your space eventually seeps into your story. And you deserve a story that doesn't require invisible glue to stay upright. Sometimes the most courageous act is not the mending, but the releasing. Not because the object wasn't worthy, but because you are. You are worthy of a space that reflects completeness, not compromise. You are worthy of surrounding yourself with things that uplift, not just function. And you are worthy of letting go of what once served you, but now quietly holds you back. Not everything that breaks needs to be fixed, and not everything that gets fixed needs to stay. Because healing is not always about restoration. Sometimes it's about clearing space for what's never been broken to arrive. Mistake 5, objects that have come into contact with blood, especially metal ones. Some things leave behind stains you can't wash out, not because they're visible, but because they're vibrational. You can scrub, disinfect, and polish the surface of a blade or a pair of scissors until it gleams like new. But if that tool once drew blood, if it was ever involved in an accident, an injury, a wound, then it holds more than sharpness. It holds memory. Not the kind you speak about or even remember clearly, but the kind that lingers in atmosphere, in vibration, in the subtle field that Feng Shui quietly teaches us to respect. You can't see the wound, but your home still bleeds. Metal is a conductor, not just of heat or electricity, but of energy. In Feng Shui and in physics alike, metal holds frequency. It amplifies it. And when that frequency has passed through a moment of trauma, a cut, a fall, an emergency, it doesn't just carry the shape of the event, it absorbs the signature. That signature, left uncleansed, becomes a whisper in your space. Over time, it turns into a low hum of dissonance, hard to detect, easy to dismiss, but slowly disruptive. You start noticing patterns that don't make sense, minor accidents that seem unrelated, a persistent drop in energy, especially in the places where these objects are kept. You might feel tired without cause, irritable for no reason. Your children might experience odd sleep cycles, unexpected emotional outbursts, or even low immunity without clear explanation. And while most people chase the physical cause, they rarely ask the energetic one. The truth is, objects don't forget, especially those forged to cut, pierce, or divide. When those objects are involved in blood, that memory settles deep, not because the tool is malicious, but because the act was charged. Blood is life force. It carries vitality, yes, but when spilled unintentionally or violently, it transforms into a marker of harm. From an energy standpoint, this isn't superstition, it's circuitry. When an object is involved in pain, it becomes an anchor point. If left in the home unacknowledged, it can act as a static source of disruption. Like a sharp edge no one can see, but everyone can feel. Let's explore this through a more grounded lens. Imagine you own a pair of scissors you once used in a moment of panic, maybe to cut through clothes during a fall or in the chaos of a kitchen accident. You cleaned them, you put them away, you never thought twice, but the energy of that moment didn't vanish. The adrenaline, the fear, the sting of being out of control, these sensations live on, not in your memory necessarily, but in the frequency of the object. And if that item remains in your home without intentional cleansing, you may find yourself subtly reacting to its presence. You may avoid that drawer. You may feel uneasy without knowing why. Or you may find that the same kinds of disruptions repeat themselves. Small injuries, strained conversations, a general sense of unease that has no name but won't leave. And it's not only the tools themselves. Sometimes it's the space where they're stored that holds the echo. A bathroom drawer with a broken razor, a sewing kit with a needle once stained, a storage box in the garage where an old rusted blade lives forgotten. These aren't haunted spaces. They're simply unprocessed ones. In Feng Shui, we often speak of energy blocks and flow disruptions, but it's not always about clutter or placement. Sometimes it's about what a space is still holding on to emotionally, even if physically it looks clean. So how do you know when something is safe to keep and when it's quietly compromising your well-being? The answer isn't dramatic, it's intuitive. Pay attention to how you feel in the presence of certain tools or areas. Ask yourself whether that item has a story you have never resolved. Ask whether it came from a moment of tension, injury, or fear. And ask whether it still belongs in your energetic life now. If your nervous system softens when it's removed, you've found your answer. If your home feels lighter, you've done more than declutter. You've healed. Some may say, but that was so long ago, it doesn't matter now. But time doesn't always erase frequency, especially when it's held in metal. That's why in some traditional practices, tools that have tasted blood are either disposed of or ritually cleansed, not out of fear, but out of respect, out of understanding that space holds memory just like people do. And that ignoring energetic residue, like ignoring the smoke after a fire, just because the flames are gone doesn't mean the air is clean. This isn't about paranoia, it's about permission. Giving yourself permission to examine the unseen layers of your home. Permission to say, this may have once been useful, but if it still carries pain, it no longer serves me. You don't need to keep tools that remind your energy body of trauma, even if your logical mind has forgotten the incident. You don't need to justify replacing something that no longer aligns with peace. And if the object is essential, if it must stay, then let it stay intentionally. Cleanse it, not with superstition, but with sincerity. Salt water, sunlight, smoke, sound. Hold it with presence. Speak gently. Release what it's holding that is no longer yours to carry, because every home has sharp edges, moments where life didn't go as planned. But those edges don't have to cut forever. They can be softened, transformed, released. Your home should not echo past wounds. It should hold present healing. And if an object carries blood, let your space carry wisdom, not the residue. You don't need to see the wound to know it's still affecting you, but you do need to choose whether you keep living beside it. Mistake 6. Feng Shui statues of fierce animals. There's a fine line between protection and pressure, and in many homes it's marked by the statues we display. A majestic dragon curled in mid-flight, a tiger frozen in the moment before it pounces, a lion with eyes that seem to follow you across the room. These figures are powerful, commanding, beautifully crafted, and yet something about them doesn't sit right. Not all the time, not in every space. You might pass by one and feel your chest tighten, or notice that the room feels heavier, as if its emotional air has thickened. The placement looks bold, but the atmosphere feels strained. Is that statue empowering your home or dominating it? The answer, more often than people realize, comes down to energetic compatibility, not aesthetic preference. In Feng Shui, statues of fierce animals, dragons, lions, tigers, eagles, carry what we call combat energy. These figures are symbolic guardians. They were originally designed to stand outside temples, palaces, or the gates of massive estates, not because they're decorative, but because they serve a purpose: to defend, to ward off threats, to anchor spiritual power against unseen forces. But here's the critical detail. Those spaces were vast, strong, energetically reinforced. They could contain the intensity these statues brought. Your living room isn't a fortress. Your bedroom isn't a battlefield. And when we bring high combat energy into small, intimate spaces, we don't create protection, we create imbalance. Statues don't just sit silently in a room, they radiate. They broadcast the archetype they represent. And if that archetype is aggression, dominance, or constant readiness for conflict, then that's the emotional current the room starts to absorb. You might not notice it consciously, but over time, you feel it in your behavior. You argue more easily. Your sleep feels restless. The room always seems charged, as if something unseen is pacing back and forth. And the strange part? Most people never trace that feeling back to the statue. They think it's work stress, or family tension, or just bad luck. But often it's the energy in the room reacting to an object that was never meant to be placed so close to the human heart. Let's take a step back. Why do people choose these statues in the first place? Some want to convey strength. Others are drawn to the artistry or cultural symbolism. And sometimes people simply inherit them, passed down from parents, purchased during travels, or given as well-meaning gifts. But no matter how they arrive, the question isn't why they came into your life. The question is what they're doing to it now. Are they harmonizing with the energy of your space, or are they overpowering it one silent ripple at a time? It's important to understand that combat energy isn't inherently bad. In fact, in the right context, it's vital. A dragon standing guard at the entrance of a large estate, properly oriented and spiritually cleansed, can be a powerful ally. A tiger placed outside a martial arts school can sharpen focus and protect sacred grounds. But that same tiger, perched in a cramped living room with no energetic boundaries, it becomes a pressure point. It pushes rather than grounds. It commands rather than supports. And if the people living there don't have the internal balance to match that frequency, the statue begins to disrupt instead of defend. This is where placement, purpose, and preparation matter. Most people don't place these statues with intention. They don't face them in the right direction, don't energetically cleanse them, don't ask what they were meant to guard. The result? Their home becomes a stage of spiritual confusion. Protection turns into posturing. The room feels less like a sanctuary and more like a silent standoff. You walk in not to rest, but to brace. So how do you know if a statue is too much for your space? You ask yourself not, is it beautiful, but how does it make me feel? If your body softens when you look at it, if your breath deepens in its presence, it may be aligned. But if you feel alert, tense, slightly on edge, or if your children avoid that part of the room without knowing why, pay attention. That's energy giving you feedback before your mind can explain it. And if that statue has bulging eyes, flared teeth, aggressive colors, or a stance that feels like it's ready to pounce, ask honestly, is this object guarding your peace or amplifying your stress? There's also a subtle psychological layer here. Sometimes we keep these statues not because they comfort us, but because we think they signal power to others. It's a subconscious posture. Look how fierce my home is, how strong my energy is. But real power doesn't need to be performed. It rests. It radiates from the calmest corner of the room, not the loudest. And if your home is trying to overcompensate with symbols of intensity, that may be a sign that somewhere inside, you don't feel as protected as you want to appear. Feng Shui isn't about removing all forceful imagery. It's about context, about balance, about knowing when an energy is supporting your growth and when it's stifling it. If you feel a connection to your statue and you know its origin, and you've placed it with awareness, it may serve you well. But if it arrived by chance, if you've never cleansed it, if it's never felt entirely right in its spot, then perhaps it's time to reevaluate. Not to discard it impulsively, but to inquire, what is this statue anchoring in my home? What is it projecting that I may not have chosen consciously? Your home doesn't need to look strong. It needs to feel safe. It needs to breathe with you, not bristle around you. And when every object in your space contributes to that feeling, you'll find that the most powerful energy isn't in a roaring lion or a coiled dragon. It's in the softness of stillness. The kind that doesn't demand your attention, but deepens your presence. That's the real protection. That's the real strength. And it never needs to roar to be felt. Mistake 7. Small change, old bills, and money found in strange places. We're often told that finding money is a sign of good luck, a blessing from the universe, a nudge from fate. But not every coin on the ground is a gift, and not every dollar that appears out of nowhere is meant to be taken. Sometimes what looks like abundance is actually a debt disguised as opportunity. And if you never pause to question it, you may be accepting more than you bargained for. In Feng Shui and many ancestral traditions, money is not just currency, it's symbolic energy. It represents flow, intention, and value. When that energy appears in unusual places, folded bills near a crossroads, Coins stacked by a tree, a crumpled note placed neatly beside a shrine. What you're seeing may not be money at all. It may be an offering, a seal, a symbolic barrier, a conversation between someone and the invisible world, meant to stay untouched. If money appears too easily, ask what it really costs. Because while your hand may feel like it's picking up luck, your energy field may be receiving something much heavier, something that was never yours to carry. In ancient practices across many cultures, small amounts of money are used in rituals not to attract wealth, but to neutralize misfortune, to release karmic burdens, to communicate with wandering spirits. That coin placed under the corner of a mat, that bill wrapped in red paper, that strange triangle of folded currency, these are not lost. They're placed intentionally, and whoever touches them disrupts that intention and inherits its residue. So what happens when you take it? What changes, if anything? Maybe it starts subtly, a deal that falls through, a miscommunication that leads to conflict, an unexpected expense, or a string of bad luck that feels oddly disproportionate to your efforts. You chalk it up to stress, to timing, to coincidence. But deep down, you feel something has shifted. The air in your home feels thicker. Your plans hit invisible walls. Your motivation stutters. And you never think to trace it back to that coin you picked up last week at the edge of the sidewalk. Because how could something so small cause anything so real? But energy doesn't move based on size. It moves based on significance. In Feng Shui, when you take something without intention, you open a portal, not just to gain, but to exchange. And if that object was a vessel for someone else's release, you may be absorbing what they left behind. Spiritual debt doesn't always announce itself with drama. Often it arrives quietly in the form of delay, detour, depletion. Your fortune doesn't disappear overnight. It just leaks. And unless you notice where the crack began, it keeps leaking day after day. This isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Because once you understand that energy is always in motion, you realize that not all movement is progress, and not all money is meant to move towards you. Some wealth is earned through flow, integrity, and alignment. Other forms of wealth found suddenly without context are simply misplaced energy looking for a new host. And unless you have the strength to cleanse it, contain it, or redirect it, you may end up being that host. Even if you don't believe in karma, even if you don't follow ritual, the consequence isn't spiritual, it's energetic. The frequency of your space changes. The flow of your life adapts to what you've brought in. And the question becomes, is this gain worth the shift? You don't need to be a monk or a mystic to understand that true prosperity comes from congruence. Not from grabbing every dollar you see, not from hoarding or hunting for accidental wealth, but from choosing what aligns with who you are. When you take money that was never meant for you, you short-circuit the current. You interfere with a pattern that had nothing to do with your story. And in doing so, you invite that story to bleed into yours. Many people who find money in odd places feel a rush of luck, of validation. But over time, they notice patterns they can't explain. Businesses stall, health flickers, trust erodes. They assume it's coincidence. But what if the energetic field around them shifted the moment they picked up something that was never lost, but deliberately placed? That's not superstition. That's symmetry. That's the law of cause and resonance. That's why elders across cultures used to say, leave found money where it lies. If it was meant for you, it would be in your hand already. So the next time you see a coin at your feet, pause. Feel, don't just react. Ask whether this object calls to your greed or your wisdom. Because some things are put in your path not to test your luck, but to test your discernment. And your ability to walk away from what looks easy is often the greatest protection you'll never see. When you live with energetic integrity, your home becomes a vault of real wealth. Wealth built not on chance, but on clarity. And when you refuse to take what isn't freely given to you by alignment, you tell the universe that you're ready to receive without confusion, without chaos, without compromise. Not everything that glitters is a gift, and not every gift is meant to be kept. Because when money shows up in strange places, you must ask not just what it gives you, but what it asks from you in return. That is the true Kwanipus. And the wise know that some things, no matter how small, are best left untouched. Final. Your home remembers everything you let in. Your home remembers everything you let in, even the things you forgot, even the ones you thought didn't matter. That old cup you repaired but never loved again. The mysterious coin you picked up without thinking. The statue that always felt a little too intense for the room it's in. These aren't just objects, they're energetic agreements. And every time you say yes to them, whether through action, neglect, or hesitation, you shape the emotional climate of your life without realizing it. Because the energy around you is never random. It's a reflection of your choices. Most people don't mean to invite misalignment. They simply don't notice when it happens. They keep items from people going through hard times because it feels polite. They hold on to broken things because they're still functional. They decorate with symbols of strength without checking if their home is ready to hold that level of power. They confuse useful with harmonious. They confuse found with meant. And in doing so, they fill their spaces with noise. Energetic noise that fogs clarity, dilutes intention, and holds their fortune just slightly out of reach. The truth is, a home doesn't become heavy all at once. It becomes heavy through small, unconscious choices stacked over time. If you've ever walked into your house and felt tired before you even put your keys down, this may be why. If your goals feel blurry, your mood shifts unpredictably, or your financial path keeps stalling without a clear cause, look not at your calendar, but at your shelves, your drawers, your corners. Your space is speaking, and it's either reinforcing the version of you you're trying to become, or anchoring the one you've already outgrown. Wealth is not just about earning, it's about preserving the energy that creates it. A clean, aligned, intentional home doesn't just look good, it breathes, it supports you, it amplifies what you do. And most importantly, it makes space for what's next. A home filled with misaligned or stagnant items blocks your path forward. No matter how hard you work, how hopeful you stay, or how positive your mindset may be, letting go of what no longer fits isn't loss, it's alignment. And in Feng Shui, alignment is the root of all sustainable abundance. So if there's one thing to take from this journey, it's not fear, it's awareness. Not shame, but permission. Permission to let go, permission to ask gently and honestly, does this still support who I'm becoming? Because letting go isn't giving up, it's creating energetic space for clarity, joy, and new blessings. And your home, your true home, doesn't begin with walls, it begins with intention. It begins with what you choose to hold close. And even more importantly, what you choose to release. Every object either adds to or subtracts from your life force. Choose wisely, because your space is your mirror, your amplifier, and your compass. And when you align it with care, your life doesn't just feel better, it moves better, it flows better, it thrives, not through luck, not through force, but through resonance. The kind of resonance that starts the moment you decide your energy is worth protecting and your future is worth clearing space for.